on this. Thank you very much for the introduction. When this conference was being prepared and I've seen the topic AI as a partner, this thrilled me because we are looking at how AI can actually become a partner in education. I will try and demonstrate everything more in detail later on. The title of my lecture is AI in Education. I myself have, of course, gone through my share of education. I even taught children. I was preparing them for university education. We were building robots, etc. So perhaps so I was chosen to speak on this topic from the Unicorn University, and I would like to look at the challenges and opportunities. I will mention the challenges only more in passing. I would like to focus more on the opportunities. Shortly about us, our research center specializes in applied research, where we look not only as generative artificial intelligence, but about 80% of our work focuses on generative AI. That is the biggest boom, societal disruption that we have been witnessing for the past 10 years. Of course, we're not just thinking up things for ourselves. You can see some of the application of our research, some of the things that we have created and that we are currently working on. And of course, we also do research based on our partners' specifications. We are looking at possible problems or actual problems and looking whether AI could be the solver of those problems. We have many partners. Unicorn Systems, Unicorn Solutions, and Unicorn Software Factory are probably the major ones, but not the only ones that we partner with. And with these companies and other partners help us to see what is happening on the market, help us look at possible solutions for future issues, like pre-prepare. And then when a client approaches us and says, would you have a possible solution for this or that, we usually are already prepared and can offer a solution.
So let's have a look at the challenges in education. I know I'm probably not going to say anything new, but based on my experience, I know that things I will be saying are actually challenges, and not only for education. We live in a real world where we interact and function, and in this real world, education has been running through centuries. And in this real world, we are used to work, interact, and now artificial intelligence steps into it. And we have to admit that AI can live only in the digital world. And in order to have a chance to use AI in the process of education, we must digitalize the whole education process. I know digitalization in the Czech Republic is not bad compared to other countries, but still it is only partial system, partial steps that are covered by digitalization. And ideally, in the future, every school, every university or education center should have a digital twin where everything that is happening in the real world, where we are used to function and interact, should have its digital twin picture in the digital twin system. So every activity should ideally be digitalized so that we would be able to use data that are generated by it. And the basis for this is a good quality information system without which we could not function at all. Next challenge I have put on the slide are data. Data can be often digitalized. Sometimes we collect good quality data, sometimes we collect bad quality data, sometimes we have too many data which we collect in the real world by hand, but we are not able to work with them in the digital world. And AI needs data, needs a lot of data. So it's not only about the quality and purity of the data, but also about the security and safety of the data and generation of the data in long time lines. And the security should be always put in the first place. If we want to work in a long horizon, if we want to predict the future, then we of course need a lot more time than only one term. What is really great at our university is that our university was founded as a fully digital university, and that was before AI was changing the world as it is doing now. And we are using the cutting-edge technologies, such as, for example, UU Business Territory, when our students use CourseKit or BookKit and so on, and we are able to see what individual student is doing, what he clicked on, what he read, what he studied, produced, etc. And we can use all these data for the future. And we are well equipped to implement the data into the education process. This is not a pure theory. It is actually happening, and in order to prove that, I will show you some samples. Specifically, I have 3 samples. I hope it all is gonna work. So this is about data. At the bottom you can see Harry Potter, I hope. Of course, we cannot use real data of our students. That's because of GDPR and other limitations. But here you can see how our student Harry Potter wants to look at how his studies are performing. And through the interface of assistant, he can see what is important. What is important is that he doesn't get any text or description as a feedback. He has a component that he can click on and work in it. He can look at his grades, he can get into the specific subject, check what is happening in his study book, and he doesn't have to use any specific information system where he would have to click and click and click through many sites. He can also ask for a consultation if he needs also through this system. This system is not a simple chat where we are just chatting, talking about something. It is a fully functional, high efficient assistant which can show us certain things, but on the background perform other tasks. So we were at the study book, so he can have a look at his study book, look at how he's doing in individual subjects that he's studying. He wants to see, for example, if his homework has been already corrected and what is his grade from this homework. Again, he can ask, he doesn't have to do anything else, he doesn't have to go to any website, interface. And also, maybe he needs to study as well. This is what university is about. So we have a lot of study data. Students can browse individual subjects. Again, the easiest way is to ask, for example, ask a question, show me my study materials so that I can carry on in my studies. And what I can see is, again, a live component into which I can click. And, for example, I want to learn about taxes. So nothing's easier than just to click on taxes, and then I immediately get into a digital book which is written in more languages. at our university, students have courses in English or in Czech. Again, they can ask a quick question, specific question to get where he wants to be, etc. So this is just an example which I wanted to show you how AI can be an efficient assistant, in terms of tasks where I don't want to spend too much time on. So I ask a quick question, I see immediately the answer, and then I can go on. So this saves time, and the time which I can use later for the actual studies. Next thing I would like to talk about is feedback. Feedback is absolutely essential in education process. The older the students are, the less feedback they get. It's not that we do not want to give them any feedback, but if you imagine that one teacher or professor has over 200 students, so it is difficult for him to write a feedback to all of them every month, for example. And we know that formative assessment works very well. So you imagine when you were studying yourself, or you are studying at university yourself, or have children at elementary school or secondary school, you know that the feedback gives you a very good information how the student is doing. Sometimes you can see that or you think that the results are not that great, but when you compare it with other students in the same year, you realize that they are not bad at all. So now on the screen you can see some specific outcomes, specific results. Again, you know, we cannot give you all the student data, but every student has a certain feedback which is tailor-made for him and can be compared with other students in the same year. Also, it is possible to see the timeline, how he has been progressing during his studies. Some of the titles here are still in English, as it is not very difficult to teach AI something, but it is important to teach AI to interpret the data. And it's important because we need the AI gives the students appropriate feedback. This is very easily scalable, and it's not difficult to prepare such a report for every student every month. And we have a grant as Unicorn University which identifies what is important for the results of students during their studies. And we also add our added value to it, which we transfer then to the students. I must say that when I studied, I received a grade written in my study book, and that's it. But I would have appreciated already at that time such a complex feedback. Well, now we are talking about studies at university or secondary education, but let's not forget the basic education. I have a small problem here starting this video. I hope I will manage. I didn't expect, but I try again. So here you have an example that we are not making life easy only for secondary school students or university students, but we are not forgetting also our youngest ones, because the youngest ones, young kids, they need an easy language, they need fun. School should be fun, school should be playing games. And here is an example how it could look like if we want to show to the youngest children that school can be interactive and fun. We have a fox here. The fox here is an interactive AI teacher, and the fox can show how school could be happening. The fox teacher can guide the student, the pupil, through the education system. What is ideal is if the whole system is digitalized, and for example, I can call this fox at any moment when I am going through a study block, when I am in the middle of my textbook, and I can call her in quotes whenever I need her. I can pose a question whenever, and this fox can see what are repetitive problems that the kids have and can adjust the feedback, can tailor make the study program for the individual child. For example, this is about how kids can use a code called Ozobot, and this fox is helping the kids through coding with this Ozobot. So if the child manages everything well, then the fox wishes them well and leaves them. I also like to use this fox. It's always available, always at my disposal, and as I said, I like to use it very much. So these were just few samples of what we do in our research center. Of course, there would be numerous more examples, but what I wanted to do was to convince you, persuade you that AI is a good study partner, and I thank you for your attention, and I am looking forward to maybe next invitation.
This is a very broad field, so I'm sure we're going to talk again. I would now like to pose a question. I was really interested in the feedback aspect, which will come up again for sure. But the feedback so far was in a text form. The students are receiving text feedback. Are you thinking about creating some sort of a virtual mentor in the future that would really lead a discussion with the student, what they could focus on, what should be improved, etc.? Is it even in the realm of possibility? Of course it is possible. As for giving it a face and a voice so that the interaction would be nice and pleasant, in the past 4 to 6 months we have seen new possibilities as to how to generate a very good voice output. We're already working on something, not strictly for the purposes of a mentor, but we could prepare some educational materials where the student could generate some sort of a discussion on a field or a topic, and receive the information in a modern form, and voice could be a part of it, voice that reacts to me. This is not a problem technologically speaking. When I showed the feedback, showing that the system actually understands the student, that is the trickiest part. Taking an enormous amount of data and being able to identify what in that data means what for the students, this or that student, and put it in the context of the rest of the class or year, and also in the context of those who have studied earlier, that is the hardest or the trickiest task that we are working on also together with Unicorn University. This is not an easy thing to identify what to find in that big data and take that as context and to create a truthful output. I would like to ask, we were talking about the priorities. Could you give maybe a practical tip as to how to prioritize resources that AI draws on and summarizes materials for education, like when we want to create a lesson for our students? Would you have some useful tips and tricks to keep my my answer brief and accessible to the broad public? I would suggest to look at the tools that are already very good in this, such as Perplexity, which is free access, works very well, and again, can evaluate the sources, and they prioritize data from the good resources. You can set whether you want to look priorly at more academic resources or otherwise. Then, of course, there are some paid services, and of course, we always have to assess or evaluate the sources, because not everything that AI gives us, and not just AI. Everything that we see written on the internet, be it AI or something else, is not necessarily true. So critical thinking is key, and verifying information that we receive is very important. Something that I'd like to ask, it is perhaps a bit obvious, but let's look at it a bit for the broad public. The fox that interacts with the student, after a while it kind of attunes to the user, and as you said, it sometimes uses the typical errors and can identify them, but it can attune perhaps to the individual student who has specific mistakes that that he makes habitually, and can perhaps help him with those. Yes, but of course, the question is, to what extent can you fine-tune such a virtual teacher? And the extent to what this AI teacher knows the student depends on how much data it has gathered. I have a student who works on a bachelor thesis with this topic, and we are looking at how to get the avatar to interact long-term with the student, to identify what the student needs, use the appropriate educational method for this student, and to truly maximize the possibility of leading the student in a way that is the best for that student. This is what we are working on. The customization is it's not a difficult task, but to turn him into a really like the best teacher in the world that could react to the smallest changes, that is a bit trickier. Okay, if you, just to give us an example, when I take the data and summarize it into recommendations for the student, you have been developing this entire process. Were there sections of this process that were really hard to do, where it was really tricky to get to the desired output? This is a very complicated question. Of course, the hard part is when we are looking at the output, at the recommendations it generates for the students. Not all students then study in the same way. Digitalization is a great thing. I think we can all agree on this. When we have a fully digitalized resources, educational resources, that's a great thing. But of course, we live in a real world which enters the digital one, and it doesn't necessarily show in the data. When somebody studies and we're looking at how much time they have spent studying the materials, it gives us an information on how much effort they put in, whether they read in detail, whether he truly goes through the entire text or whether he just skims through. And then we see test results. And sometimes these two things are not in alignment. You have the correlation of the effort the student gives into the studying and their output. And of course you have students who open the file and it seems like they're studying, but they're actually watching soccer on the side or something. So the data is not necessarily indicative. And of course you can have a student who doesn't really spend that much time studying but has excellent results because perhaps they are already acquainted with the subject matter. Sometimes you can have students who don't open the study materials from their own account but are studying them from other resources. So we have a lot of exceptions and side things that complicate our works. If we would have very regimented students who would all study in the same way, it would be easier. But there are a lot of such exceptions, and this is when you have to go in depth and really focus on the process of data collection that would get you to the desired output. Maybe you need a button, like I'm watching soccer. Of course, you can have five tabs open and we have no information about that. Sometimes you have people working on something and playing Counter-Strike at the same time. This is something that goes along with the digital world. We got a very interesting question, which is not strictly linked to the subject of our conference, but because it comes from a research center, and I know that this is your topic, I would still like to ask it. These tools use a lot of energy. So what would you also recommend to our listeners? Perhaps this is a subject for a presentation on its own, but how do we make these tools sustainable? How do we address the energy aspect of it? This is something that we hear mentioned a lot. When we look at YouTube content and the volume of videos that go through there, at our use of mobile phones, whether we really need such intensive and high-tech phones, perhaps we would make do with less advanced ones. Do we need to drive SUVs if we look at it in the extreme? We as humanity use a lot of resources and energy. And I asked AI about its view. It said, yes, you do use a lot of data, but we need you to keep the infrastructure running. Let's look at this subject. There was the boom of ChatGPT came in 2020. This was 5 years ago. What is happening in current time is you can have small language model. We're looking at generative AI language models. That is running on a moderately good notebook, and it actually has better, less energy demands than ChatGPT did several years ago. It keeps improving. And we are always working on the solutions. Local solutions can perhaps be even safer and less energy consumptive. And big data centers are also sometimes built in an area where you have a good sustainable energy source. I hear that there should be a big, very efficient center being built close to a nuclear power plant to run it, which is a relatively clean source of energy. So it is true, we not only need to work on the development of AI, but also look for good sources of clean, sustainable energy. In Europe, a lot of these huge data centers are not many are being built. Microsoft was planning to build one, but I know that, or I have heard that we do not have a sufficiently clean and cheap source of energy. This was one of the reasons that they have decided not to build a huge data center. I will now land a little bit closer to earth with my next question. I saw you running through the index in the chat. Now I'm asking about a theoretical possibility, because I saw a lot of components there. Can I generate some sort of graphs? Can I ask the chatbot to generate a graph of my like graph visualization of my performance? How am I doing in one subject, in all the subjects, to create a visual representation? That's a very good question. If somebody is using this component approach, that is really a godsend in terms of AI, because when you have a component, all you need to do is to generate the content, and that's very easy. We provide content and it visualizes it. This study assistant, it is the primary thing is to have the output in terms of study results, etc. And like this is the default setting, and I can tell him, yes, you have the permission to also create this or that output. We also work with other projects which use large data sets, and sometimes I do need to visualize the data. It shows me one type of graph, I need another type of graph, and it can create various types of graph, and I choose which is the best for my use at the time. I don't know if it is a good idea to give the students a choice of 27 sorts of graphs. They basically are told that this is their results, it is good or bad. I'm also following up on this. I'm thinking of another use case. Let's say I'm thinking, okay, I need to make a presentation. I would like to use a video, and I don't remember where the video exactly was. Can I ask the assistant and ask them how to implement the video, etc.?
If I want to look for something, I can look in pictures, I can look in texts. The videos are actually a series of pictures, so you look in it as you would look into a video. So, for example, you write a question, I am looking for how to use this and that, and it will target me directly to the part in the video which shows it. So it is designed that the interface would be able to find that. For example, we were discussing an issue if someone has a technical design and wants to ask something about the technical design or have a calculation about the design, then he puts it into the system and gets all the calculations. So now we can simply work with AI from morning till night. So this is even about, for example, integrals. If I don't know one, I will write it and it will calculate it for me. Yes, that's right. So there are no limitations from real life that the AI would not be able to solve. It's about a certain quality. For example, our partner companies, they demand a certain quality, and now we are able to respond with that type of quality. So it is an unbelievable scale of opportunities that AI offers. I think that we have exhausted all the questions. We do not want to torture you for too long here, even though we could discuss for a long time, as this topic is very, very broad. but you have opened your presentation with a topic of how to support education with AI, and this is what should resonate throughout the whole day today. So thank you very much for inviting me, and goodbye.